have you ever wondered how you can update your room on a budget without painting a wall? That's exactly what I'm going to share with you today on Dear DIY Mummy. Alex on Instagram asked, other than changing the wall color, what is your favorite way to update a room on a modest budget? This was a question that I really liked because honestly, painting a wall would be my default thing to do when I want to update a room quickly. Usually it makes the biggest impact and I don't think that it is too expensive to do usually. So because I default to that, this was somewhat of a challenge, but I did come up with 10 ways that I think are really great ways you can update your room on a budget that are not painting a wall, not even painting a feature wall. So I was pretty proud of myself for coming up with this list, and I hope you find it helpful. The first thing that I think you can do to make a huge difference in any room that you want to update it, you want to make it feel fresh, is rearranging the furniture. So whether it's your living room, your bedroom, your dining room, just moving things around can make your room feel completely brand new. For example, in your living room, you might want to swap out the couch with some chairs, the chairs with a couch, move things around, put the TV in a different spot, put the focal point in a different spot. You might want to completely angle your dining room table. You might want to swap it around. If you have furniture that is pushed up against the wall, you might want to pull it into the center of the room to create more of a conversation space. Those are just some examples of all the things you can do using furniture that you already have in your space. And that is a $0 tip. And it also, you can burn some calories doing it too, right? There's been times when I've definitely worked up a sweat moving the furniture around in my home. The second idea I have for you to make your home feel completely different on a budget is swapping out those throw pillows. I'm a throw pillow fanatic. You might know this if you follow along on my YouTube channel, on my blog. I definitely find it to be a way to add some color into a space. So if you stick with neutral colors for your furniture, so those are beiges, whites, blacks, browns, you can play with color with those throw pillows. So whether it's like a nice dark moody floral you want to pop in with a throw pillow, whether it's more neutrals to make the space feel more serene, I think that is such a budget-friendly way to make a room feel so much different. Another cheap tip is to buy just throw pillow covers rather than all new throw pillows. So I love the IKEA pillow inserts, and then I just keep a whole bunch of those. I have some throw pillow covers that I change in and out depending on the season, depending on the mood, depending on how I want my room to feel at the time. Next tip is painting furniture. Tip number 3. I really enjoy painting furniture, whether it's wooden furniture or swapping from one color to another. You can use chalk style paint, you can use spray paint, you can use latex. Just make sure to prep the furniture properly. So usually this involves at least sanding the piece and probably priming it before you put on a coat of paint, because you do want that paint to last and not chip. Sometimes if you're using a chalk style paint, you don't have to sand or prime the piece. Check the instructions on the paint that you're using. It should tell you exactly how you need to prepare the piece of furniture you're working on. So whether you're going from like a dark wood to white or from a cool color to a warm color, I feel like painting those furniture accents, whether it's chairs, side tables, coffee tables, can really change the mood of a room, and it's not going to cost you a whole lot of money. Idea number 4 is changing out your drapery or your curtains in your room. I like to use white drapes usually for just that nice subtle light look, but recently I did change the drapes in my kitchen to some DIY floral drapes. That made a huge difference in how my room feels. So it went from pretty subtle and almost Scandinavian in feel to something kind of cottagecore and pretty dramatic. And that's just 4 pieces of fabric that I hemmed and I gathered at the top with some hooks, put them up, and it made a huge difference in my space. So you can DIY some draperies or curtains if you don't have the money to purchase custom ones, or I'm going to mention it again, I love IKEA for getting nice budget-friendly drapes and blinds even. They also come in really long lengths there, so you can use hem tape and just hem those without even owning a sewing machine. So that's a really great option if you don't want to sew some drapes yourself. Method number 5 for making your room feel completely different, I think, is swapping out artwork or adding artwork to a wall that doesn't have any art already. Now, I love large, oversized artwork. You don't have to break the bank to get some art like this. So you could go to the thrift store and look for something there. You could also go to Etsy and see if you can find an artist that offers downloads and you can print those out and frame them. A print shop like Staples, they have what's called engineering prints. These are black and white prints. They're 2 feet by 3 feet, so nice and big, and you can send some photos there and get them printed out in a really big format. Frame those with inexpensive frames. You have some bold, dramatic photos that you can hang up in your wall. That's going to make an impact immediately. Idea number 6 is adding some trim details to your room. So whether it is swapping out some baseboard, adding some crown molding, that can be a little more expensive, but there's lots of different styles of crown molding you can add, or doing sort of a custom board and batten half wall or 2/3 wall. You can buy MDF for this, so it doesn't have to be that pricey. I do have a tutorial for DIY board and batten on my blog, on my YouTube channel if you want to look into something like that. That's going to give your room a lot of detail and make it look a little more elevated and more interesting. Idea number 7 for updating your room on a budget is updating light fixtures. Now, updating light fixtures can be pricey. Light fixtures can be pricey. So if you are going to splurge on something in your space, I would recommend splurging on light fixtures. Honestly, they do make a huge difference on how modern or how stylish your room is going to feel. You can also tell the difference between an expensive light fixture and a really cheap light fixture. However, if you don't have the budget for something more expensive, I like looking at home discount stores like HomeSense, that's Home Goods in the States. They sometimes have some amazing designer quality fixtures for not very much money at all. Or check out home improvement stores like Home Depot. You can often find some really beautiful fixtures there for a nice, affordable price. Idea number 8 is to bring some nature into your home. So adding natural or natural looking elements into your home is going to make it feel lived in, beautiful. Rustic and natural decor is trending right now, but honestly, it's something that's timeless that I don't think is ever going to go out of style. So whether it's wildflowers in a vase that you put on your table, whether it's gathering some really interesting twigs, putting them in a jug on your side table, or even making a DIY pine cone wreath or adding some green boughs to your mantle, all of those things can be either free or very cost effective and can add so much texture and interest into your room, make it look different on a budget. Idea number 9 is to swap out hardware on your cupboards or your furniture. I know this sounds like a really small detail, but honestly, it can make a big difference in how your room feels. You can instantly make a piece of furniture look dated to looking modern by swapping out those knobs or those handles on the furniture. So for example, you might have like a matte silver chunky hardware on your coffee table. You could maybe try something a little bit more on trend, more modern, like a matte brass or some sleek black hardware. It's really easy to swap that out, and it's gonna make your furniture feel different and therefore make your whole space feel like a different space. So for budget-friendly hardware, I like places like Amazon, I like Home Depot, and I like Wayfair. I found some really nice affordable hardware at all of those places. And finally, tip number 10 to completely transform your space on a budget without lifting a paintbrush to a wall is decluttering your space. So this is something that I often avoid because I don't love to clean and declutter. I would rather decorate, of course, but sometimes removing things is what's going to make that huge difference in your space. Just remember, you don't have to cover every single surface in your space with something. You don't have to have your side tables full of things. You don't have to have your shelves full of things. Leave blank space, leave that white space so that the eye has somewhere to rest in your room. If there's too much stuff everywhere, it's going to be really overwhelming to the senses. So go through your room, look at every single piece in your room, decide, A, do I absolutely love this? Is this bringing me joy? B, is this a useful thing? Am I actually using this piece? If it doesn't fall into one of those two categories, it might be time to think about donating that item. Once you go through your room and completely declutter it, give it a nice clean, it's gonna feel like a whole different space, I promise you. So those are my 10 tips on how to create a new feeling space without painting a wall. Of course, painting a wall is a great option. In a future podcast, I'm going to talk all about that, but I hope you found these tips helpful. It definitely was a great exercise for me to remember you don't have to paint to make a space feel completely different when you have a budget. So now for this week's challenge, I want you to use one of these 10 tips that I talked about today in one of the rooms in your home. I'm gonna link to the show notes below this episode if you need to refer to these 10 tips, and then let me know in the comments at thediymommy.com/podcast which room you tackled, what you did with that room, and what you thought of the results. Thank you so much for listening today, and I will talk to you next week. Happy DIYing.